Trouble with Treasure, Book 5. For my mermaid friends, Natalie and Caroline, keep exploring. CBC. Chapter 4. Wally had been looking in the same spots over and over, trying to find Violet. By now, he knew she wasn't hiding in any of them, but he didn't want to stray too far from home base and risk getting lost, or worse. Clunk, clunk, clunk. The loud noise in the distance caught Wally's attention. He pictured a giant sea monster stomping toward him, ready to attack. He squeezed his eyes shut. But after a minute passed and he didn't get gobbled up, he realized that it must be something else. He thought. What could that noise possibly be? Wally didn't think out loud, because he didn't have a starfish living on his head. Wally didn't really want to investigate, but he knew that if he'd heard a loud, weird sound, Violet had probably heard it too. She would definitely want to investigate, so finding that noise was his best chance of finding her. He gathered up his courage and swam toward the clunking sound. Chapter 5. Wally followed the noise to a big, dark cave deep in the ocean. Maybe it's coming from a sea monster after all, Wally worried. Violet? He whispered. No response. Violet? He called a little louder. Still no response. Violet! He yelled at the top of his lungs. Wally! Violet shouted. I'm here! Help me! I'm coming! Wally called back. He was very scared, but if his best friend was in trouble, he had no time to hesitate. Wally rushed into the cave. He found Violet in a deep hole, next to an unusual object. Are you okay? Wally asked. Are you trapped in that hole? I'm okay, and I'm not trapped, Violet replied. But I found something. She shined her flashlight on the object. Wally saw a mysterious wooden box with a giant metal lock on the front. What is that? He asked. He was confused, but also relieved that Violet wasn't in trouble. I think it's a treasure chest. But I can't be sure without opening it. I tried knocking the lock off with a shell, but it wouldn't budge. Wally's eyes widened. Treasure chest in Aqua Marina? How exciting! Yeah, Violet agreed. And I need your help getting it out of here. It's wedged in. Okay, Wally said. He used his tusk to help dig out the box. With one big tug, they pulled it free from the sand. The chest's wood was splintered and gray. Shiny metal hardware held it together tightly. Violet said, checking. The lock. It's locked. Violet tugged on the lock, but it held fast. Let me try, Wally said. I can use my tusk like a key. Wally put his tusk into the keyhole, but the lock still wouldn't budge. We'll have to try something else, Violet said. Wally shivered. This place gives me the creeps, he said. We should take the box somewhere else and try to open it there. Violet nodded, smiling. Do you know where? To the clubhouse, they yelled together. Chapter 6. Violet and Wally's secret clubhouse was hidden in a small alcove in the middle of a coral reef outside of town. It was where they always did their very best mystery solving. Bringing the chest to the Clubhouse wasn't easy, but they caught an ocean current on the way back to Aquamarina, which made the box a lot easier to carry. Soon they were comfortably lounging in their clubhouse sand chairs. "Ready for a brainstorm?" Violet asked, taking out her trusty hourglass and notepad. A brainstorm was when the best friends came up with a bunch of ideas or possible solutions to whatever problem they were facing. "Yep," Wally said. He flipped her a pencil with his tusk. "I have so many questions. How can we open the box? Who put this box together? What could be in it?" "What could be in the box?" Violet wrote at the top of her notebook page. She turned over the hourglass. "I'll go first," Violet said. With a grunt, she tried to lift the box. "Treasure? Jewels? Gold coins? A million seagrass cookies?" The ideas were coming to her so quickly that it was hard to write them all down. Finally, she put down her pencil and stopped to breathe. "What do you think is in the box?" she asked Wally. Wally had some ideas too. Violet picked up the pencil again. "Tons of homework? Vegetables? Narwhal-eating monsters?" "I hope it's one of my ideas and not one of yours," Violet interrupted. "And there's only one way to find out. Open the chest and see if we are right. But to do that, we need to think outside the box." "We're already outside the box," Wally said. Violet laughed. "No, thinking outside the box means thinking creatively." "Oh," Wally said. "Like, go back in time to ask the person who put it there if we can borrow the key?" Violet smiled. "Maybe that's a little too far outside the box." "Or invent X-ray glasses to see inside?" he asked. Violet laughed and waved her hands. "Or drop a huge boulder on top so that the box breaks into a million pieces?" Violet clutched her sides, laughing. "Not quite. I think we should find someone who can pick a lock," she replied. "Good idea," Wally said. "How about Mr. Finn, the town locksmith?" "His shop is closed for spring cleaning day," Violet reminded him. "Right. How about Ms. Pearl, the hardware store owner?" Violet shook her head. "Her place is closed too." The last grain of sand slipped through the hourglass, but Violet wasn't going to stop thinking until they had a plan. "We'll have to find someone else to pick the lock," Wally said. "Gil can do it!" Violet shouted, clapping her hands together. As always, their brainstorm had helped them come up with a plan. Chapter 7. Gil Sharkfin was the biggest troublemaker in town. If anyone could pick a lock, it was him. In fact, for the last Aquamarina Town Prank Day, a holiday Gil had made up, of course, he had switched all of the locks to the stores on Main Street. All of the shop owners were locked out of their businesses, and everyone was furious. Well, everyone except Mr. Finn, who ended up with a whole lot of unexpected business that day. Violet and Wally lugged the chest all the way to the Shark Fin Diner, the restaurant Gil's parents owned. Gil sometimes worked there on weekends. Sometimes meant that he had been hired and fired, and rehired and refired more times than anyone could keep track of, including Gil and his parents. As a result, no one ever really knew whether he was supposed to show up for work or not, which was exactly the way Gil liked it. Violet and Wally found Gil behind the counter, switching the contents of the ketchup and mustard bottles. "What's up?" he asked. "And what's that?" The large wooden box had immediately caught his attention. "Hey, Gil," Violet said as she plunked the box down on the counter with a thud. "We have a lock we want you to pick for us." She pointed to the large lock. Gil took a look and then shrugged. "You know," he said, "it's a lot less fun when you actually want me to do it. Plus, as you can see, I'm pretty busy over here." He screwed the top back onto a ketchup bottle that he'd just filled with mustard. "No problem," Violet replied, winking at Wally. "If you think you can't do it, it's no big—" "Wait!" Gil interrupted, spilling mustard on the counter. "Of course I could do it, if I wanted to." "I don't know," Violet said with a smirk. "It looks like a pretty hard one." "No way," Gil replied. "I could do it easy peasy. Let me get my lock-picking set." Violet smiled at Wally as Gil reached into his backpack. "You mean you have it with you right now?" Wally asked, surprised. "Of course," Gil replied. He pulled out 2 small metal tools and immediately started working on the lock. Violet and Wally waited as Gil tried to open the lock. As the minutes ticked by, he grew more and more frustrated. For some reason, it just wouldn't open. After a while, he stopped and wiped his brow. "I hate to tell you this," Gil said, "but this lock is too old for me to pick. You're not going to be able to open it without the original key." Violet sighed. It wasn't what she wanted to hear, but that was okay. She definitely wasn't giving up. If there was one thing she had learned, it was that you always have to keep trying if you want to be a really good problem solver. Suddenly, the bell on the front door rang. Violet, Wally, and Gil saw a customer walk into the restaurant. "Gotta go," Gil said, grabbing the condiment bottles. "Catch up with you two later." Who are historians? Historians are experts who learn about the past. They study all kinds of material, including artifacts, photographs, and documents from a specific time period. Historians help people know more about their towns by giving presentations and creating interesting and informative museum displays. Maybe someday you can be a historian and share your knowledge of the past. Will Violet and Wally unlock the secrets of the treasure chest? Find out in Book 6.